Hello, Welsh Forest Focus. Something a little different today, just a short 10-minute video or so turning the page to the Spurs game after yesterday's podcast, which was a little downbeat and very much focused on the manager's future. So I wanted to look more at Spurs on Friday because personally I'm looking forward to this game a lot more than the last three. Obviously, Fulham was a disaster, and we turned the page against Wolves and played much better, coming off the back of a run of defeats. So I feel like we can go into this Spurs game, and it can really change the narrative around the manager if we can get a result. Obviously, that's going to be very difficult against Spurs, who will rightly go into the game as favourites. But it's one of those games where if we were playing one of the so-called lesser teams and we got a win, a few of us would still kind of feel, oh, we should have won that game. If we can get a win against Spurs, it really transforms the way we view Steve Cooper, hopefully, and the way we view the season going into Christmas. And it'll kind of raise the spirits, I think, and hopefully make us feel a lot better about the team because I personally was very downbeat after the Fulham game and thought Cooper was done, but Wolves was much better. And I feel slightly more optimistic. I think I'm the only one in the podcast group who thinks we can actually get at least a point in the game. Well, I'm sure Greg and Emily do, but I know Mikey thinks we're going to lose. But he's on with Greg on Thursday, and we'll look in more depth at that game. But I just want to have a quick look at Spurs, maybe about how we go about the game, how we can get a point potentially or more, and how that will really transform the mood, hopefully, of the football club, and at least ease the pressure on Steve Cooper. Because like I was saying yesterday, I just find this cycle, pressure on Cooper, pressure off Cooper, pretty unsustainable. And if he can get a sustained run of form, obviously that would end or ease, should I say, our relegation worries and make things feel a lot better for the manager, who I know, or I think still does retain the vast majority of support in the fan base. And personally, of course, I'd love nothing better than for him to succeed and stay at the football club. But to do that, he is going to need some results. So before we get into that, quick thank you as ever to our sponsors at the Trent Navigation. Tickets are now on sale for the Euros in terms of watching the three England games at the Nav on the big screen. Obviously, it's a great fan zone and there's food and music and everything. So it'll be a great atmosphere if you can't get to the tournament. Link in the description to get your discounted tickets to go and watch the three group games at the Nav. So thanks very much for their support as ever. Right, I just wanted to look at maybe a potential Forest lineup and also a quick look at Spurs for the next 5 minutes or so. And then we'll do a much more detailed preview, excuse me, on Thursday with Greg and Mikey. And then before then, I'll catch up with, or I'll meet Kelvin Wilson and we'll discuss the current situation at Forest tomorrow for a longer game. Right, let's just have a quick look at a Forest lineup away. I think that they probably... well, they probably will and probably should go about the game, in my opinion. So, if I add in this Forest lineup, this is pretty much how they lined up against Wolves, but there would be one personnel change for me. So, I suspect Cooper is going to go three at the back again, probably five at the back realistically with the wingers that Spurs have got. And then we're going to pack the centre of the pitch and have the one up front and kind of try and treat it like Arsenal at home last season, when obviously we got that famous win to stay up. So my team would be Turner in goal, keeping his place, Bolly, Niakate, Murillo, if Murillo is fit, and then Williams and Toffolo very much deserving to keep their place as wing-backs. Midfield three of Mangala, Yates and Sangare, and then Gibbs-White in support of Elanga. So just a couple of names to touch on there, obviously. Murillo is a doubt, I guess, after he hobbled off. One minor gripe I had at the weekend, I didn't understand why Murillo played in the centre of a back three when he's the one who could bring the ball out, but I'm sure there was a tactical explanation for that. So fair enough. Sangare, obviously, I suppose, is the one that people are going to question after his performance at Fulham. Personally, like I said on Monday's podcast, I don't think you can freeze out these players like Sangare and Dominguez with so much investment in them, like 30 million for Sangare and probably about 20 for Dominguez when you take into account that Remo Freuler was part of the deal. And if we assume he's valued at around the 9 million we paid for him, I think we paid 9 million for Dominguez, correct me if I'm wrong, that's about 18 million. It's a lot of money to be sat on the bench, so I think you have to reintegrate them probably one at a time. Olorena was a free transfer, so if Cooper doesn't feel he can trust him after Fulham, then fair enough, and obviously Nico Williams deserves to keep his place. So for me, Sangare comes in and anchors the midfield alongside Mangala and Yates, with Kouyate dropping out. I just feel like he's a 20-minute kind of disruptor at the end of the game. He did pretty well in that first half and at Wolves, but he was blowing and he had his hands on his knees as the rest of the team was going off the field. So I just don't think the legs are there for him anymore. Obviously, Elanga's not Taiwo, and when we think back to that Arsenal game, the impact Taiwo made scoring that goal, but I think he's the best of a bad bunch is a bit harsh. I think Chris Wood has a role to play, but probably coming off the bench. And Divock Origi looks like he needs games, but I don't think now is the time to play him. So that would be my team. Pack the midfield, very much like that Arsenal game. Make them go wide and then try and send them back inside. And try and I know it's gonna. I'd try and nick a 1-0, or you try and nick a draw. Make it difficult for them. We can't keep gifting teams goals. Even at Wolves, it was a bit of a ropey goal to give away, but we did look much more solid. So that would be my team. I think you have to make it an ugly game. I know fans won't particularly like that, but I think against a team the quality of Spurs, then that's probably the way you have to go. I don't think we can go toe to toe with them because I think we'll get beat. And if we do get beat, then the pressures were even more on the manager. And if we get beat heavily, then I suspect that will be the end of the manager. So I think he's going to be conservative and try and make it as competitive as he can. Just got a possible Spurs lineup here. It would be this pretty much what they played all season. Certainly while James Maddison's injured, and now they've got players coming back. Vicario in goal, Porro, Romero, Davies, and Udogie at the back. Sarr and Bissouma in midfield. Kulusevski in behind Richarlison, who started through the middle against Newcastle, and Son, and obviously Brennan Johnson out wide. They've got so much strength in their team. I mean, Porro is excellent down the right. If Brennan plays there as well, I think that's where the game's perhaps going to be decided if we can't keep Porro quiet. So a lot on Toffolo. Kulusevski's done really well in the middle in that kind of Maddison role. So they've got a load of firepower up front. Obviously, Son's having a great season, and Richarlison did well against Newcastle at the weekend. Romero should have been sent off in that game. More VAR incompetence. How it wasn't a red card for that foul on Callum Wilson, I don't know. So that's their team, and I think obviously they've got a lot of quality. They move the ball really well, lots of pace on getting up the pitch, lots of forward threat, but they do give you a chance. Even though they even concede against Newcastle when they're in total control, they don't keep too many clean sheets of late. They're a much better team now. They've got Bissouma and Romero back, but I think they'll give up at least one or two big opportunities in the game, and then the question is, can we take them? But I think if we go toe to toe with them, we're going to lose heavily. But I am kind of optimistic. Like I say, if we turn up and we play as we can, and the atmosphere at the City Ground is going to be brilliant, hopefully everyone's going to be behind Steve Cooper. So I do think there's an opportunity to reset the way things have been of late. And if we can get a result, then we go into Bournemouth, which is a really tricky game given the way they're playing. But again, it's at home. Newcastle on Boxing Day is going to be really tough. Don't really expect anything there. And then Man United at home, you can get at them as well. So I think there is a chance in the next 4 games that we can, get back on track. But we're not playing well. So I feel like this back to basics approach against Wolves, although not popular, is probably what we need to do rather than trying to, run before we can walk. I think I was as guilty as anyone of getting too carried away with where we can finish. I don't think we're a top 10 team. I think I said at the time we're not a top 10 team with a current attack, but the rest of the team's good enough. Maybe it's not, I don't know. But we can be doing better than we are. And if we dig in, knuckle down, and make it as difficult as possible for Spurs, then I think we'll kind of get back to that home fortress mentality that we had last season and make things a bit more difficult. Right, it was just a short video, just to drop some thoughts in. If people like this stuff, great. Do drop a comment in if you agree with what I've said. If you disagree with what I've said, that's fine. If you don't want to see these 10-minute short videos, then no problem at all. If you think they're a bit rubbish, put it nicely, and I probably won't do them, but it's just something a bit different, as a daily video. In the meantime, thanks very much if you watched along, and thanks for your support as ever. And we'll be back tomorrow with Kelvin Wilson out at lunchtime, and then a full preview with Mikey and Greg. So yeah, thanks very much. Have a good day, everyone, and we shall see you soon.